You ever seen a Leica in the wild, capturing your gaze from across the street while you silently wonder to yourself what made that person spend so much money on a camera body? Well, what if I told you that there was a series of Leica camera bodies that you or I could own without eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for 2 years straight? Would you believe me? By the 1960s, Leica was known for making some of the best rangefinder cameras in the world, including the Leica M3, the infamous rangefinder camera that is still going for well over $2,000 secondhand online. Unfortunately, Leica's tendency to stick with what works really bit them in the ass when Nikon released the Nikon F. The Nikon F wasn't the first SLR camera, but it definitely was the first SLR camera that was widely adopted by professionals and even accessible to those who weren't professional photographers. Realizing that they had screwed up pretty bad, Leica made a quick U-turn back to the intersection of mirrors and glass, known as SLR way. In 1964, Leica introduced the Leica Flex, a fully manual and mechanical SLR with a max shutter speed of 1/2000th of a second and a body more dense and square than the Great Khali's chin. Along with the Leica Flex came Leica's new R bayonet mount lenses for SLRs. They were much bigger than their predecessors, the M series of glass that Leica made for their rangefinders, but they still had that delicious German glass that everyone came to know and love. Now, while the Leica Flex was a really great camera, it never really gained the spotlight due to Leica's Japanese competitors, Canon, Nikon, Pentax, the others, producing higher quality electronics in their cameras for a lower price point than Leica. One of the biggest things missing from the original Leica Flex was TTL. If you don't know what TTL is, it's through the lens light metering. It essentially takes a reading of the light for the exposure settings through the lens itself, giving you the most accurate reading possible, versus non-TTL, which usually uses a sensor somewhere else on the camera body, which could get accidentally covered, or in non-ideal lighting circumstances, generally has a tougher time telling what exposure settings it actually should use versus a TTL meter. Luckily for Leica lovers of the mid-60s, the second iteration of the Leica Flex did include TTL metering, except for with flash, which was kind of a bummer for professionals at the time, but as Leica continued to produce the Leica Flex line of camera bodies through the mid-60s and early 70s, they continued to use more expensive and more complicated components than their Japanese competitors. What this meant is that by 1974, when they released their last Leica Flex, the SL2, they were significantly behind their competition. Enter Minolta. Minolta was making some pretty badass SLRs on the low, like way more accessible than Leica's SLRs. And they had been dabbling in the SLR game since 1958, 6 years before Leica even made their first SLR. Minolta fully capitalized on that 6-year gap and put themselves in a substantially better position than Leica was in for the way that photography was moving at the time. So naturally, being a savvy camera company, Leica hit up Minolta and was like, hey guys, look at how cool these lenses are that we make. This glass is pretty great, huh? You wanna make some SLRs together? And while Minolta was initially hesitant, after the third date, they decided to get it on. From that loving relationship between Minolta and Leica, the beautiful baby R3 was born in 1976. With Leica's very first electronically controlled shutter, center-weighted metering, and the stepped cam design that they introduced with the R3, this camera was a huge step forward in the SLR game for Leica. In fact, this camera actually became a bit of a runaway hit for Leica. It is still the second best-selling SLR that they have ever made, behind its younger brother, the R4. Nowadays, R bodies are actually pretty affordable, so if you want to get into Leica glass, but you don't want to spend your entire life savings on a camera body before you even buy any lenses, you might consider looking into the R series. I'd personally recommend an R3 or an R4, but if you wanted to spend a little bit more money, you could go for the R6.2, which has that 1/2000th shutter speed and a much sleeker body design. Now, keep in mind with R bodies, we are not getting access to the M-mount glass, which is kind of the golden egg of lens systems these days, it seems like. But we're still getting Leica-made glass, and you'll absolutely see the difference that makes all by itself, regardless of which Leica system you're using. I really did try to find a definitive answer on whether R mounts or M mounts are better in their image quality, and it seems like the internet is pretty much at a standstill on this topic. The few people that I found that seem to have some serious experience with both R and M mount lenses claimed that there really isn't any difference between the two, but you just have to see each lens for itself. That's definitely good enough for me. As I've mentioned, I'm someone who doesn't deserve to be shooting on any of this glass anyways, so I can't really tell a difference. With all that said, if you're looking to Leica because you're an avid rangefinder shooter or just for that M mount glass, then the R series is definitely not for you. But if you're looking to shoot on some amazing lenses with a well-built and easy to use SLR system, well, the R series might be right up your alley. Before I end the video though, I do have to say that there are quite a few SLRs that are really similar to the R series, particularly the Minolta XE, which is kind of the indirect predecessor to the R series. So if you want to learn more about that relationship between the R series and some other cameras like maybe the XE, I'll link a video somewhere up there that talks a little bit more about that. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a like and subscribe for more. I'm gonna be doing videos every 2 days at this point. That's what I've decided. Every 2 days we are doing a video, which is crazy. It's a lot more work than I thought it was when I was getting into this, guys, but I am really, really passionate about this, so I'm gonna continue to produce videos for as long as I possibly can. So thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.